very small babies
recording?
that
Yeah,
have
recording.
to come to the neonatal unit. And that is the same whether you're born in here or you're born in Nottingham or you're born in Leeds. It's very clear definition. If you're born below 34 weeks gestation, you come to a neonatal unit for your care to start with. And then we have ladies that deliver at term, so 37, 38, 39, 40 weeks. Those are normal, hopefully normal babies. They go to a maternity unit, they have a baby, have a day or two, and they go home from there.
So what area does this cover?
So the area we're covering is the group in between. So babies that are born around 6 weeks early to about 4 weeks early, those babies should be able to stay with their mums on a postnatal ward, receiving a higher level of care, and they're in for a little bit longer than a normal term baby. But what we are developing is our capability in Leicester for what we call transitional care. So it's that group of babies. And everything we do tries to keep those babies well and to keep them with their mums so that they don't have to be admitted. So we have to keep them warm, we have to support their feeding, and we also have to teach parents quite a lot, because those babies are much more vulnerable to being ill later on when they go home, and that's where partly where the STORT programme comes in. So the Trust is working with us to develop that, and the key thing is about a neonatal nurse who can look after babies on the postnatal ward upstairs with their mums. A nurse will be with them 24/7. The Trust is looking after that side of things, the hospital. What we want are some particular bits of equipment that are better and more specialised than what your standard postnatal ward things. So every bed space has a cot with a special heater if the baby needs it. The cot is designed so it goes over the mum's bed, because she's going to be in for longer, and you know she is in a bay with other ladies, so we want her to be able to be close to her baby. Her baby might need some procedures done, so we need some good examination light. They may need some phototherapy for jaundice. We would like that next to the bed without having to take them away from their mum. We also need to think about the ladies that do the STORT programme, which is the education programme. There's some apps and information for mums, which looking on a mobile phone screen is very small. So we would be thinking also each bed space would have an iPad where they can access that information better. And I'm also thinking about the capability using the iPads for translation, because obviously, you know, a lot of us, like myself, I don't speak any other language apart from English, so it means that our nurses looking after these families have got an automatic translation service they can easily access. And then the final thing is breast pump. So all of our babies don't feed very well to begin with. We need to get ladies breastfeeding, and we need the pumps to help them. But at the moment on the postnatal ward, we don't have a dedicated set of equipment for each bed space. So it's creating that identity of the area for these babies, but also so we've got all the right new equipment, which I've got some, I got the company with the equipment that I want have lent us the ones for you to see today. And that's transitional care. Keep babies with mums, and then as soon as they're ready for home, even if they're still having drip feeding with a nasogastric tube, we have a fantastic home care team who can look after these babies at home. And so we'll have that transition, and we'll avoid having to admit them. So that's our plan.
A couple of questions came to my mind. First one, what sort of percentage of babies over general do you actually get who are under the 36 months? Do you have a lot of them?
So we have a reasonable number. So to give you an idea, between the general and the royal, we currently have about between 3 and 5 babies in hospital per day. So those are our cot days. Per month it can vary the number of babies that, and these are the babies that, these are the babies that are currently on the postnatal ward.
Right.
But as soon as they need any intervention, like keeping them warm or tube feeding, they have to come to NICU.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can probably add another, I could give you the accurate numbers, but probably add another, almost double that number as well. So I don't know, Tilly, do you know the actual numbers per gestation per year out of our 11,000 births?
Of our 11,000 births, we have approximately 1,800 to 1,900 that come into our service. The vast majority of them are about 32 weeks gestation. So the absolute breakdown I'll send to you from
please,
so
yeah.
you can have a look at that. So what happens inside the unit, so the hospital neonatal service covers babies of different degrees of sickness. So when you finish with Joe and you see transitional care, because I think that's probably better you get your mind. When you finish with Joe and transitional care, I'll show you what it means to be very sick inside there. And so we have about 2,000 really, really sick babies. 20% are really, really sick. Then 20% are getting better. And then 60% are those babies that are bigger, more better, and small proportion of them will need a little bit of support before they go home. That's transitional care. So we look after babies from 22-week gestation. So 22 weeks is 5.5 months. So 5.5 months all the way to 9 months. The babies that are the sickest are those that are the smallest and those that are the most preterm. And then you get the big babies with problems like when mothers have hypertension, diabetes, infections, problems with the placenta and things like that, which makes them come out a little bit early and big, and that's the group that we tend to neglect. That's the group that we need to pay attention to and provide care, because that's the group from the country point of view. Everybody is saying don't neglect them because they need our help in as much as those very, very small ones do as well.
But most importantly, to give that care next to their mum rather than having to put them on a neonatal unit. So our figures that we've looked at, we think we could have 4 babies at least per day in this hospital that are currently sitting in the low dependency end of the ward, separated from their mums, who could be next to their mums. So it's about being able to have that comprehensive package, but also the most important thing is the expert on a daily basis to cover them. The midwives are fantastic, but they're not neonatal nurses. So this is a group that we want to be able to keep with their mums and keep them well.
So my next question is, if we weren't doing this fundraising, how would you have got this equipment funded?
So the equipment that we are wanting to use is partly based around a good service for the parents as well. So breast pump, they often have to use their own breast pump from home, or they have to find one in the ward if it's available. We have quite a high rate of ladies who end up formula feeding, who perhaps with better support and equipment would be able to express milk. From a bed point of view, yes, I'd use a hospital cot. It's not as nice as the ones we've got. We've only got 2 heated mattresses, so if the baby got cold, what we have to do is take the baby away from mum and put that baby in the nursery. So we can deliver the care, but we don't do it in a way that is gold standard and it separates babies from their mum. So we don't have the funding for some of these pieces of equipment because we are expected sometimes to use what is available, and what I would like is the next step up, because it's the mother-baby separation issue that
So
I
there was
want
no
to
other
reduce.
plans of any funding coming in any other way?
So, Tilly will explore that a bit more with you about the
Okay.
store programme. From the neonatal equipment, there are sometimes towards the end of the financial year little pots, and we access those as much as we can.
Of course.
So we have already asked to make sure that the additional capability we will be asking our home care team to do, that equipment has already gone on our shopping list with the trust. So we are maxing out as much as we can with all of those equipment. And I got some pieces of equipment last year. We've had a whole load of phototherapy equipment this year. So this is the next stage. And this is why we have the two things we'd like to talk to you about,
Yes.
because we know that there are things we can't fund. We
course.
know there are things we might be
Might
able
be
to
able to
fund,
fund, but we
but
don't know.
actually I want to fund them.
Yes.
And therefore that's where we've got a range of things for you today.
Great.
Polly, is your wife going to be
We're at general at the
in
moment.
general?
And,
His wife
you
is
know what?
expecting.
Having tried to park here today, general is easier parking. but
So I would,
distance
evolution, not revolution, because
Good.
we need 6.4 whole-time equivalent nurses
Yes.
to be able to provide 365 days a year, night and day shift.
It's so difficult.
We had to pick one site to begin with. Now
Uh-huh.
there is a capability if a baby needs the enhanced transitional care in the general. We have a fantastic transport team.
Yes.
Move the baby across with mum. But the plan eventually will be, because we're not getting our great big new big Boris hospital where everybody's in one site, is that we will be looking to, so we had to pick one site. So we picked here because the flow through of patients and achieving what we want to achieve with transitional care actually opens up bed spaces on the unit, which means that if a sick baby in, say, I don't know, in Derby and there's no bed in Nottingham, they'll be able to come here because we will create space, but we will not use that for low dependency babies for out of the city. We will use it for the sick babies effectively.
So if the equipment is being donated for a second one unit, will it be just for this, for Leicester Road, right, or will it go to General Hospital?
So we are one service, so the aim would be, whilst the equipment would be in one place, certainly
Okay.
the store programme goes across the two sites, but we are one service, so we would aim to offer as much as possible with moving babies across the city, that access to those beds and utilisation of those beds is for the whole service. So to me, the two hospitals, we're one service.
But
So,
because this is a specialised
yeah,
maternity
Yeah.
ward, they'll probably have the equipment here.
But what I'm looking for is that the equipment per bed space means that the facilities being built up at the general at the same time. So the individual breast pumps, the better pods, those will be available at the general. The key thing is certain things like a neonatal nurse to give nasogastric tube feeding. We have to pick one site to start,
Yes.
and
then
that's
roll it out.
where, and because the benefit for the very sick babies to free up as many intensive care cots, because a cot isn't really a cot, it's a nurse to look after a cot. So yes.
And my final question, at least for now, is do you have any particular ethnicity that is really more prevalent in having under, you know?
This is your expertise.
So, when we look at which babies get sick, so if you look at an entire population, so we're looking at the health of the nation.
Sorry, it's the builders outside.
If we look at the health of the nation, it's determined by how healthy the youngest are, and the youngest are those under 1 year. And if we look at those under 1 year, we define health by the number that stay alive versus the number that die. So the number that die, if you're looking at deaths in the first year of life, the most number of babies die in the first month. And the biggest proportion of babies that die are those that are born too early, or those that are born preterm. So that's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is that those babies who are born sick and who are born preterm come from vulnerable population groups. Right? It is an EDI issue, it's an EDI, ethnicity, diversity, equality, diversity, inclusivity issue. Our biggest mortality, the biggest component of mortality comes from the Afro-Caribbean and the Asian. And of the Asians, it is the Pakistani, and then you've got all the other subgroups. So in amongst that, we've got Telugu families as well. So if you look at all the families coming into our service, about 51% are Caucasian. The rest are all minor ethnic groups. And of the minor ethnic groups, it's the Asian, Pakistani, Telugu, Bangladeshi, Afro-Caribbean that are the top groups. And these are it is representative because it's not just ethnicity, it's poverty. So you're going to see poor Caucasian families and then poverty associated with ethnicity that go hand in hand. So if you read the information that's coming out from the country and what it's saying about babies that are dying in our area and mothers that are dying, the biggest group is the Afro-Caribbean. And that I think hasn't changed. The mortality rate for them is high, and then you got your Pakistani and Asian under that, and then your Caucasian is right down there. But if you pull out the left, picks that up.
Okay, I had expected it, but it's still hearing it.
It's a sad thing to think about.
It is
a sad thing. But we've got lots of positives to share with you. I really like the idea of finishing off with Jo, and she's so passionate about transitional care, and I want her to show you the equipment that she's put out. I want her to show you transition. If you don't mind just walking with her, and when you finish with her, I'll be waiting here.
Right.
Then I'll come back here and I'll talk you through about the education side, what will be important from the community perspective side, and what we think as a service we owe a responsibility to our community, and that means we have to go out into the community and we have to educate and we have to say, we've got the experience, we know what works, we know what you need to do, we know what you don't need to do. Listen to us because we are credible, and that's what we'd like to do. So, but we'll finish up with Jo first, and I'm waiting right here.